For my National History Day project in Rights and Responsibility themes, I chose the topic The Abolition of Slavery in Thailand. This topic relates to the annual theme in part of the human right to not be a slave and the responsibilities of the government and king to stop it. Slavery is an official status in Thailand since the Ayutthaya period from the system called Sakdina, or feudal system, until it was abolished by King Chulalongkorn or King Rama V through a series of reforms taking place from 1874 to 1905. There are 7 types of slave by the way they became slaves. The first one is redeemable slave or Tha Sin Thai. They sold themselves or family members into slavery because they cannot support themselves. This type was the most common. The second one is bond slave or Tha Neu Ruan Bia. These were children born to enslaved parents within the household of a master. They were enslaved from birth and could not redeem themselves to gain freedom. Inherited slave or Tha Dai Tai Bida Manda. These slaves were passed down as inheritance after the original master passed away. Gifted slave or Tha Than Hai. The slave that transferred as a gift from one individual to another. Famine slave or Tha Thupikapai, originally free commoners or prai, who could no longer work for the state or sustain themselves. They sold themselves into slavery in exchange for support and assistance from a master. Slave rescued from legal punishment or Tha Choi Wai Chak Than Thot, the person that committed a crime and were fined but couldn't pay for it. If someone else paid the fine on their behalf, they would become enslaved to that person. The last one is war captive slaves, or Tha Chaloi. They were captured after being lost in the war. There were 6 ways to liberation from slavery. The first one is earning money to redeem themselves. Second one is becoming a monk with the consent of the slave owner. The third one is going to the war, being captured as a prisoner and later escaping. The fourth one is marrying the slave owner or their descendants. The fifth one is reporting to authorities that the slave owner is a traitor, with the investigation confirming the claim. And the last one is being freed by a royal proclamation during the abolition of slavery, and we will focus on the last one. The abolition of slavery in Thailand was influenced by several key causes, such as threat from Western colonists that were expanding in Southeast Asia during the 19th century, the pressure from European countries who had already abolished slavery made it increasingly difficult for Thailand, then Siam, to maintain the practice. Abolishing slavery was seen as a way to avoid the stigma of being a backward nation in the eyes of Western power and to maintain its sovereignty. Moreover, it's from desire to establish legitimacy in society. King Chulalongkorn or King Rama V sought to modernize Thailand and create a more just and structured society. The abolition of slavery was part of his effort to establish legitimacy and reform the country's social system. By ending slavery, the monarchy aimed to demonstrate progressive leadership, improving the country's image both domestically and internationally, and also reducing the influence of the nobility. The abolition of slavery also helped reduce the power of certain noble classes who maintained large number of slaves. These nobles had considerable control over the labor force and the economy. By removing slavery, the monarchy could weaken their influence and centralize power, aligning with the broader modernization agenda. In the process of abolition, we can consider into 3 steps. First one was start on 21st August 1874. They freed the slave born in 1871 and reduced their value by 4 baht per month, or until they turned 21 years old. Also, the buying and selling of slaves was prohibited. Step 2 was on 1st April 1892. The Abolition of Slavery and Military Conscription Act Ratanakoshin Sok 124 was announced. And the last step was on the 1st April 1905. Abolition of Slavery Act Ratanakoshin Sok 124 mentioned about freedom for all slaves, Starting from 1st April 1905, all children born to slaves will be granted freedom and no longer be bound by their parents' slave status. Reduction of slave price. Slaves, except those born in servitude, would have their price reduced by 4 baht per month, starting from April 1st, 1905. If the slave changed the owner, their price wouldn't increase. Prohibition of slave trade. The buying and selling of slaves was officially banned. This law marked the formal end of slavery and serfdom in Thailand and was a significant reform during the reign of King Chulalongkorn or King Rama V, aligning with efforts to modernize the country and meet international standards peacefully. Also made Thailand has the Abolition of Slavery Day on 1st April 1905. There were 3 different sides of opinion after announcing the abolition. First one was from the noble class and the rich people that owned companies. They did not agree with it because they would lose their own labor, making it more burdensome, and they must pay more at a high rate for them to work. The second one was from the commoners that did not agree with it. They prefer being slaves as a way to survive because the owner would give them food and living place. And the last one is the normal, merciful people that agree with it. They thought it would make Siam more civilized, and civilians would have a better life. The abolition made a big change in short-term result by transition to wage labor. Former slaves sought employment, and industry adapted to compensate workers, making a shift toward a monetized economy. Economic disruptions. Sectors that heavily relied on slave labor, such as agriculture and domestic service, experienced a short-term disruption. Employers faced increased labor costs and had to adjust to the new economic model. Reduction in noble power. Nobles and landowners who depend on slavery experienced a decline in their economic power and influence. On the other hand, it also has long-term results, for example when modernization and legal reforms. The abolition was a cornerstone in King Chulalongkorn's modernization efforts, aligning Thailand with international human rights standards, paving the way for comprehensive legal reforms. Economic transformation. The shift from a slave-based economy to a free labor market stimulated economic diversification and growth. It encouraged industrialization and development of new sectors, contributing to Thailand's long-term economic resilience. Social mobility and education. Former slaves and their descendants gradually accessed opportunity for social mobility. The abolition fostered a more equitable society with increased emphasis on education and merit-based advancement. Improved international standing. By abolishing slavery, Thailand aligned itself with global norms and improved its reputation with Western nations, ensuring its sovereignty during a time of colonial expansion. Modernization and centralization. The abolition was part of King Chulalongkorn's border reforms, which modernized Thailand and centralized power under the monarchy. The abolition of slavery relates to human rights and responsibilities of the Thailand monarchy to make equality happen. They figured a way to abolish slavery slowly, to make it peaceful, and didn't have any violence. And this is a very important situation in Thailand history because it changed Thailand in many ways and paved the way for modern Thailand reformation. Thank you.